Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. My name's Chad. Take a dive into all sports. This is my college football week 11 recap video. I do apologize for lateness getting this video out. Unfortunately, life does happen, and I've been kind of busy most of the today. So let's just go ahead and also, before we continue, also let you know that my latest update on my poll will be at the end of this video. So you just want skip ahead and check that out. You're more welcome to. Let's just go ahead and dive right into that Notre Dame Virginia matchup and in Charlottesville. And it was a very kind of lackluster affair. Put it mildly, Notre Dame was not really throwing the ball a lot. They were relying a lot on the running this game, and they did have quite a few good runs. The defense showed up, tried to pitch that shutout, but Virginia got a late score, and the Irish ended up winning 28-3 to go to 9-1 and really tighten up that race for that college football committee. And then we'll go into the NC State Wake Forest matchup. This was a one key matchup in the ACC, determined who controlled the Atlantic Division. And I did not realize their game against North Carolina was considered out of conference. So Wake Forest was undefeated in conference play. And they had their hands full against NC State. NC State was battling them back. It was all over the place. And Justice Ellison from Wake ended up having 3 total touchdowns overall, which really helped. Leary from NC State, he had a phenomenal game, over 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Even MZ was just, a beast for the Wolfpack in the running game, had over 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't enough as Wake Forest was able to hold on to beat NC State 45-42 to remain unbeaten in ACC play, and almost got their ticket to Charlotte booked as they go to 9-1 and become right now the ACC's favorite for possibly making to the college football playoff. The Big Ten. Boy, oh boy, did this conference have a lot of key matchups in there. First, we'll start off with the Maryland-Michigan State matchup. This is, like I said, it was the battle between the 2 stars, Maryland quarterback Tagovailoa and Michigan State's running back Kenneth Walker III, and neither one of them disappointed. Tagovailoa had 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, while Walker had over 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was just too much Michigan State, and Michigan State was able to hold off Maryland 40-21 to go 6-1 and keep 6-1 in the Big Ten. Putting pressure on Ohio State. Another key matchup was Michigan-Penn State, battling right there in Happy Valley. This was a very close, fought game between these two. And Penn State actually came up and was able to get a late lead at the end. So I thought, the upset was about to happen, as I called it. But it was not to be, as McNamara hitting Eric All, and he barely gets across the goal line to get that game-winning touchdown. And that was it. Michigan escapes the upset bid by Penn State, 21-17, to continue the pressure on, and pretty much, the game between Michigan and Ohio State is going to be huge. And speaking of Ohio State, they were played host to the Purdue Spoilermakers. That's right, Purdue is doing nothing but spoiling, especially if anyone in the division, But I said this is where their magic train will run, and it was done at half. Ohio State was already up 45-17. It was not even close. O'Connell did almost have 400 yards passing with 4 TDs, so he at least tried his best. But Stroud threw for 5 touchdowns himself, and they just handled business. Undefeated in Big Ten play, 9-1. So you got to think, now the top 3 teams in the Big Ten East is Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan. Ohio State and Michigan State battle next week to see who's going to be top of that. And then Ohio State, Michigan will face off at the end of the year. It's going to be unreal for the Big Ten finish. And then out west in the Big Ten, they had Minnesota visiting Iowa. This was one of these games I could have thought kind of got either way because of what was at stake, since it's trying to get keeping pace with the Wisconsin. And Iowa was just too much for Minnesota. They were able to sneak out and beat the Gophers 27-22 to win the Rosendale, the big, huge bronze pig trophy. Well, excuse me, probably not bronze, but it's a huge pig trophy. That weighs 85, 95 pounds. You just watch an Iowa player just carry it on their shoulders like it was nothing. These guys are stout, and the Big Ten West is going to be a huge showdown at the end of the season. We'll go ahead down south. We'll take on some of the SEC action. We'll go start off with Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Both these schools are trying to remain relevant in keeping in pace with Alabama, even though Alabama doesn't really have anyone to really fear except for A&M. A&M beat them. But A&M could not get past Ole Miss. Matt Corral was doing just enough, almost 250 yards passing. But a pick six in the fourth quarter just sealed the deal. And Ole Miss beat A&M 29-19. They gave a little pressure on the Tide. The Tide had to do is just win next week, and then they locked their slot in Atlanta. And the Mississippi State was battling Auburn. I know this is going to be a good matchup between Rogers and Nix. Unfortunately, Nix looks like he got banged up during this game. He's trying his darnest to keep going, but Will Rogers had 415 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, as Mississippi State came back from 28-3 down. They were a 28-3 deficit, and they came back and beat Auburn 43-34. Really get that Egg Bowl, little extra spice in that matchup at the end of the year between those two. In the Big 12, had Oklahoma visiting Baylor, and I called Baylor beating Oklahoma. And the defenses showed up. They stifled both offenses most of the game. Caleb Williams could not get anything going through 2 picks. Abram Smith had 148 yards rushing for Baylor, and Baylor were just able to do what they needed to do, knock off Oklahoma and win 27-14, putting a lot of pressure to find out who's going to get into that Big 12 championship game in Arlington. And then the other side of that, you have TCU going to visit Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State needed this one to keep pace with Oklahoma, make Bedlam huge. Because I think whoever loses that's going to be out, and Baylor wins out, they're going to Arlington. So these last few games in the Big 12 is going to be huge. And Oklahoma destroyed TCU, 63-14. 63-17. And one wasn't even close. So it's going to make, like I said, Bedlam look really, really, really important at the end of the year. And then UTSA played host to Southern Miss, and oh boy, did Southern Miss come to play. They stifled the Roadrunners most of the game. They couldn't get the running attack going. The passing was way off. But UTSA, it was just kept working and just kept working. Southern Miss, Frank Gore Jr. had, over 120 yards rushing. But it was just key plays at the right times. And UTSA was able to finally escape towards the end of the game and win 27-14. And then we out there in the Mountain West, you had Nevada visiting San Diego State in a very big matchup in that Pacific Division, West Division. And it went back and forth pretty much. I kind of thought San Diego State's offense has been kind of lackluster. They've been struggling. They got caught short against Fresno State. And once again, these two schools are very good against each other, and it came down to the end, and San Diego State, their San Diego State's defense came up at the end on a final drive, stopped Nevada, sealed the victory, 23-21. And then up in Eugene, Oregon, you had Washington State visiting Oregon. And I told you this is going to go back and forth because it's the Pac-12 football. They like to beat each other up. They don't like to give any wiggle room between anyone. It was pretty much the case. It was going back and forth and back and forth. But Oregon was able to put on the pressure in the second half, and was able to beat Washington State 38-24 to kind of be the only Pac-12 representative right now in the top of that. Well, that's the recap of those games. I went 11-3. I can't believe 11 wins. And all my losses were really close, so I could have gone undefeated. I highly doubt that, but my loss was really close. I mean, Michigan only won by 4. Mississippi State was a little much. That was a 9-point victory. Wake only beat NC State by 3. So any one of these games could have gone either direction, really. I mean, Nevada could have pulled up the upset, or could have knocked off San Diego State. So, I'm happy with it. 11-3 is a good finish there. So let's go ahead and kind of look at the new Jazz Sports Talks PowerPoint Index, top 25. And there's definitely some movers and shakers in this aspect, especially with the games last week. Number 25, new member joining in, Arkansas 7-3. Hey, lone Sun Belt representative, Louisiana Raging Cajuns at 901. They've been featured all the other polls, and they're finally making to this one. Utah's back in the top 25 at 7-3. So is Kansas State at 7-3. Clemson hangs on, or actually moves up to 21 after their win. 7-3. Nevada, San Diego State, you see there, goes up a couple after their Baylor escape Nevada, 9-1. Pitt only jumped up one spot after beating North Carolina on Thursday night, 8-2. See, A&M drops to 18 after their loss. Unfortunately, I know BYU dropped 2. Wisconsin only moved up 2. UTSA, with their little struggle, dropped 1. Ole Miss only was able to move up 3 positions to 8-2. And then you see Baylor also only just moving up 3 positions. Which kind of, those two did some really good wins, and they definitely should see some good bowls unless Baylor can pull off, the miracle. Being a 2-loss playoff team, I only doubt that one. And then, finishing off with the top 12 here. You got Cincinnati still maintaining that 12th position at 10-0. Unfortunately, it's just their schedule keeps hampering them. And so they're going to stay there unless, some other teams actually lose. Iowa now is at number 11, moving up 2 spots. Alabama drops 3 after thumping New Mexico State. See, Oklahoma only drops 7 from my number 2 to number 9. Oklahoma State is only taking advantage of moving up 1. Wake Forest, with their big victory at NC State, jumps 3 positions to number 7. Michigan State actually fell a position after beating Maryland. Oregon moved up 1 by barely escaping Washington State. Once again, it's just those scheduled points right now. Notre Dame did the biggest move, moving up 4 slots, getting to that number 4 position. Number 3 is Ohio State. Moved up 1. Michigan also moved up 1 to number 2. Makes the game, if those two maintain it, a huge matchup between maybe possibly 2 and 3. And Georgia still number 1. Well, that's the recap of the top 25 as I see it. If you check out my other videos, I kind of show you how those point systems actually work, so you can see how I come up with the point scale. Unfortunately, being in the group of 5, that's kind of hampering you a little bit, so that's why Cincinnati doesn't do much better. But hey, things can happen. A lot of teams start losing. You still got a couple a couple more weeks left in the season. You never can tell how things are going to play out. This is college football. Any team can show up to knock you off. So the Miss almost at the UTSA, and Baylor knocked off Oklahoma. So right now there's only 3 undefeated schools. See how that continues on. And I'll make sure I get my picks out for this week out to you on Friday for Saturday's action. And which game were you most upset with? Which one are you looking forward to next week? What do you think of my polls? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're there, you're going to smash that thumbs up for me, give me a like. You can also subscribe. Once you subscribe, you hit that bell notification. Let you know next time I post a video. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.